Am I a freelancer or am I an entrepreneur? It's a question for the ages. In fact, I hear it all the time in my coaching practice. It might be the number one question. Now, both are valuable, both are important, but if you don't know which one camp you fall into, then you're not going to have the proper metrics for success. As freelancers, we do a job. As entrepreneurs, we figure out the job. A good example would be comparing a plumber to an architect. Now, when you're a plumber, aka a freelancer, then your job is to fix a toilet. You come to the house, you fix the toilet. The house could be going crazy, the house could be on fire, that's not your job. Your job is to fix the toilet and get paid to fix the toilet. That's it. When you're an architect, aka an entrepreneur, then you don't know where the toilet is. In fact, there is no toilet. Where does the toilet go? How many toilets are we gonna have? How big is the bathroom gonna be? Are we gonna have a bidet instead? Those are all questions you need to ask, and that's actually your job. Your job is to figure out the parameters, the standard. Which leads to the next part. As freelancers, our job is to follow a particular standard. As entrepreneurs, our job is to create the actual standard. I've been a longtime freelance contributor to Playboy magazine, way back when Hugh Hefner was still at the helm. Rest in peace to Hugh Hefner. But even though I ended up working with him and ended up being involved with the staff there, I was never asked, hey, who's the target audience for our magazine? How much advertising should we have? How many pictures should be in each issue? I was never asked that because my job was to meet and fulfill the culture that was already created by Hugh Hefner way back in the 1950s. Compare that to being an entrepreneur. When I co-founded the startup Cuddler, it was something that connected people for hugs. Kind of like Tinder or Grindr, some of the hookup apps, but strictly platonic and for hugs. One of the things that I had to do as the COO of it was to figure out what the actual standard was going to be. So how quickly will we respond to customer service? My decision was we would respond to everybody within 24 hours, which meant some pretty late nights, but that was part of our image. And it went down all the way to the font that we would use for the actual messaging, because we had to convey this idea of emotional safety if people are connecting for hugs. It's a very vulnerable place to be. So as founders, we actually had to create the standard. Another word for the standard is culture. As freelancers, our job is to maintain the culture created. As entrepreneurs, our job is to actually make and create the culture. That's a big difference. Also, as freelancers, we create a job for ourselves. As entrepreneurs, we create jobs for other people. Freelancer, we dig deep into our niche. We find our particular market, we dive into it and become an expert in that particular product or service. As an entrepreneur, we're actually building jobs and opportunities for other people. For instance, with the Bring Your Worst show, I ended up hiring Purple Fluorite to do the theme song that you're hearing in the background, as well as Neha Tawari of Virgin Consulting to come up with a trailer for the show. And one of the most important points as far as how you spend your time is that as freelancers, we trade time for money. As entrepreneurs, we trade time for investment. Now, as freelancers, we have different metrics for doing this. We could do build hours, we could get paid per project. Back when I was doing a lot more freelance journalism, then we would be paid per word. There's some type of metric. Now, we might have more flexibility than the traditional 9-to-5 job, but there's only so much of ourselves we can give. For instance, if back to the plumber analogy, how many toilets can you plumb at one time? We're going to call it a verb. I don't know if it is, but it's a verb now. How many toilets can you plumb at one time? Probably only one. So there's a certain restriction to that idea. It also means as freelancers that we get paid the same amount no matter what's happening with the people or organizations that we're working with. Now, I've worked with some publications or organizations that were literally going bankrupt right after I did the work with them. I've been in bankruptcy court. It is crazy, fighting for your money. And then I've been in situations where I've freelanced for an organization or a person, and then they became a billionaire or in some cases a trillionaire after the fact. Either way, I got the same plumber rate. As entrepreneurs, though, we trade time for investment. Most of the time, we're building something that we don't have that guarantee that it's actually going to financially pay off later on. Because of that risk and that higher risk, we get a chance of a higher reward. When my co-founders and I sold Cuddler a handful of years ago, we sold the company, we got a check, and then we split that check based on our ownership of the company. It also makes it easier to build passive income because more than likely you're actually going to own at least a part of that intellectual property that you're building, unlike being a freelancer. So which one is better? Neither. Or both. I'll tell a lot of my coaching clients that if they're heavy into the freelancing, why don't you try to get some ownership going as an entrepreneur? And if they're hardcore entrepreneurs, I'll recommend that they get a little bit of freelance going. I actually follow the same formula, which has got my career to where it is now. I do freelancing and have always done freelancing because it gives steady or more steady income. And it doesn't require me to put on the leadership role all the time and figure out what the culture is going to be. And then I do the entrepreneurship because it allows me to make a bigger cultural impact, allows me to build in ownership as well as passive income, and it allows me to impact things in a way that I wouldn't be able to do as a freelancer. So what about you? What camp do you fall into, or are you like me where you're a blend of both? Be sure and drop a line or leave a note. And if you want more info on becoming a better freelancer, if you're an entrepreneur, or a better entrepreneur if you're a freelancer, be sure and go to the show notes. Until next time, remember, you can always bring your worth and you can always build from now. Take care, and I'll see you next episode.